Welcome, viewers. And today we are going to talk in this podcast about a very interesting topic, which is about how to figure out about this data, how to get it from this social media. Everybody is talking about analysis, but hardly anybody knows about how to find this data. And for that, we have Hetal Rach with us. Hetal is basically from Nagpur area. He did his engineering from University of Nagpur, and after that he did his masters into IIT Powai. So basically IIT Bombay it was called at that time. And now he is working with multinationals. For last many years he has been working in multinationals, and then he is a management consultant now. Welcome, Hetal.
Thanks, Anand. Happy to be on this podcast and thanks for inviting me.
Great. So, Hetal, I know you for a long time now, and I am ever impressed since I know you. Let me tell you that. And even though you are a good friend of mine, I've observed certain specific skills or character you have, and that is really going to be helpful for our viewers today. And which is about, how do you figure this data out? And actually, before I get into that discussion, I would like our viewers to know a little bit about yourself right from your schooling days till now. Okay. That what have you gone through so that we could set a perspective about how do you look at these events and data.
Sure. So I was born and brought up in a small town named Brahmapuri in Chandrapur district, which is about 120 kilometers from Nagpur. And kind of did my schooling up to 12th class there. Joined a college, Kavi Kulguru Institute in Nagpur University to do my engineering in computer technology, and then came to IIT Bombay for my masters in computer science. From there, campus placement brought me to Pune, and I've been a Punekar since then.
Yes.
Right. So, I have worked with multiple, companies, MNCs, in my prior avatar, and then kind of tried my hand at a couple of startups, and also right now I'm a management consultant for startups.
Sure.
Right. Along with that, I've been also involved into active volunteering with certain NGOs and organizations, and help them with their IT and data strategy and all that. So that's
great.
Yeah.
So now I know that a very wide spectrum you have. But today, talking about this data aspect, what is this data according to you, and more importantly, why do you even want all this data? People generally say that I'm doing data analytics and all that. But my primary question is, when somebody gets into this field, do they even know what data is? What are your views on that?
Yeah, so one of the things that I wanted to kind of bring out during our conversation is that what is data.
Okay.
So there are different people who understand data in different things, and there's a widespread perspective or understanding that data means Excel sheets. You have numbers, you have number crunching, and all that data science teaches you is about how to kind of make sense of various numbers that you see in various rows and columns in an Excel sheet.
Right.
I have a very different perspective to it. Data is not just numbers and Excel sheets. Everything. So, for example, if there's a specialist doctor who has done a lot of with an experience of 20 years. Now, does that that doctor has seen a lot of cases, but then can you quantify or put everything that he knows in an Excel sheet and make kind of the same assumptions that okay, if I put everything that this doctor knows into an Excel sheet, I'll be able to get some interpretation out of it, right? So can we also say that he is not relying on data? He is relying on data, but that data need not always come in the form of numbers and Excel sheets.
Right.
Is what I'm trying to kind of bring out here.
Yeah. So there is a qualitative aspect and a quantitative aspect.
Correct. Right. So numbers are important, but when we say that and this brings into a larger topic that I want to kind of touch base upon, which says that okay, what is it that you learn when you learn about data sciences, or kind of when you learn mathematics. So why is it that there is mathematics, derivatives, integers, everything taught in school, right? There are many people who say that why do we study this, because we are not going to use it.
Sure, sure, sure.
But the larger point there is that we do use it because it teaches us many things on how to analyze situations, how to kind of make sense out of situations. So when you know how to crunch numbers using an Excel sheet, you can also use that knowledge, that skill that you have gained into research into other areas and so on.
Great,
That is also very important aspect of it.
Okay, okay. So now we are talking about the meaning basically. So when you are dealing with the skills and the tools, also try to understand why you are doing this and what are you learning from it basically.
Correct. Yeah.
Now talking about this and your entire MNC experience and your volunteerism also, did you often come across some business questions which people ponder about and they lack data? Any situation you could think of that people are talking about some problems like what is happening in India, why is the GDP low, or simple thing that why are people dropping out of school, and then people sit and they wonder that what do I do, how can I help here, and nobody even knows how to figure out the data behind this. How could one go about situations like this?
Correct. So you need to, very good question. You need to understand what is the problem that I'm trying to solve or what is the problem that I'm facing, and then look at ways and means. And the answer might not be the same. I mean, might not be very obvious. So, for example, in my volunteering days with Seva Sahayog, what used to happen was that we see that there's a problem with reading skills of kids.
Okay.
Right. So 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. Right. Now there was a survey done.
Okay.
So the problem there is that 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th students in underprivileged sections cannot actually read well.
Okay.
But then when you give them books which are age appropriate for them, then it comes in small font. Sure. Their reading skills aren't really valid for that. But if you give them books which are larger fonts, they are all age appropriate to 5 to 6 year old kids. So now I know certain publications and certain researchers who have done a lot of research on this. They published books which has larger fonts, but the content is age appropriate to this. So it kind of comes in with that. So it is all about asking the right questions, trying to get to the root cause of it, and then trying to solve the problem, as opposed to why is he not reading?
Wow. Now that's a phenomenal way to look at it. That if you understand the problem well, and then you ask the right questions further,
correct,
then you could possibly lead to a answer. Now my question goes, because I know you are a guru in this, that people often sit on those questions and they wait for organizations to give data. For example, you said Seva Sahayog, and thankfully I am also a volunteer of that. Now, if you get a problem and you wait for Seva Sahayog or any other organization to give you data, then it's going to take a longer time.
Correct.
Then how do you go and actually search things on net? We also call you jokingly a Spider-Man. I know that because you go all over and you figure out information, and hats off to you. How do you do that, and what do you really need, the way of thinking behind it?
Yeah, so it is primarily based on my training as an engineer, as a computer science person, that you can and many a times you see that it's a different style of thinking. So many what you do is you try to get to the principal source or original source of information. So when you read something, you don't kind of, just because a newspaper has printed something or someone who you respect a lot says something, that does not mean that you have to trust it. So for example, I use this example often, that there's the Business Standard about a few years ago made a big headline saying these many states of India have per capita income below average, and they were like screaming on it.
Okay.
Right. Now, if you think of it, I mean, if you are a average person, you would just say that outrage. How can someone be below average in India? Right. It is so bad. Right. Now, but if you think a little bit more about it, as the standards increase, when you say average, there has to be someone who is below average, because that's the definition of average.
Yeah.
Now, just because Business Standard gave that as a big headline does not mean that you suddenly trust it. You have to analyze it. You have to understand it.
Right.
And then based on that, what you do is you kind of start your own research. Okay, boss, what is does it? So firstly, you question the is this something that I can trust?
Okay.
Now, if that person is someone that I can trust, then what I do is I would kind of see, okay, what are the sources that he is relying on? If you can directly find sources which are good, trustworthy, okay. But otherwise, if he's relying on secondary sources which further rely on the original sources, you kind of it's about trying to get to the root of it.
Hetal, are we only referring here to social media? Because I'm just for my viewers.
Huh.
When we talk about research,
Huh.
people talk about so many sources.
Huh.
In today's context, what I'm talking is that information really available on net? Because we all have access to net, but hardly few people are able to get something out of it. So I understood the way what you're telling is to think about it, don't take it the way you see it, and start further researching on it. But when you research it, are there a lot of informations available on social media, on Google for that matter?
Absolutely. I mean, there's so you have to find and look for information. Information doesn't come to you. And unfortunately, in today's world, when algorithms dictate everything, what you do on social media, or or your Facebook feed, or your Twitter feed, or Insta, right? What you like, what you comment on, dictates what you see more and more of.
Okay.
So if you show that you are inclined towards something, then the objective of the developer sitting behind writing the code for Instagram is to keep you engaged. The objective of that developer is not to ensure that you gain more knowledge. Right. So if you get bored with something, or if they think so, the whole idea is that I'll tell you my philosophy of how I use social media. So social media may you think that okay, it's a stream of water that is flowing. You have to, if you insist that everything that I kind of that passes by me, I have to consume it.
Oh, that would be huge.
You cannot, right? And so that is where I decide that okay, I will decide I want one glass of water that is enough to quench my thirst for the day. I will take that. Now, where do you fill that glass of water from is also dependent on you.
Right.
Your timeline
Absolutely.
is so if I am, for example, doing research on cognitive psychology, right, and how the human brain works and so on. So what I will do is I will look for people who have written articles on that. So if I like some article, I would, so just because I have liked that article, or liked reading that article, I won't stop there. I will look at who the author is. Now I will look at the author's Twitter page. I will follow the author. I will then kind of look at who all does that author follow.
Okay. So his source of information.
Right. And then kind of see and kind of follow a few more people from the author's following list. And that is how, and then I am also ruthless in unfollowing.
Okay.
So just because I have followed someone on Twitter or Facebook does not mean that I have to read everything that they say. So if I see that the signal to noise ratio, so if a person puts in 20 posts, of which 2 I like but 18 I don't like, then I am actually wasting time. So your timeline should be what you like. There are no social kind of courtesies to be meant there.
Yeah.
Because you are fine tuning it for your consumption.
Great. So basically you are creating a scope for yourself. So the place where you and me sit, we can see probably everything. But if you limit yourself, or you define your scope, or you add the necessary filters,
Correct.
And you have only so much limited time you have, you could take that glass of water to your needs.
And where do you, and that scope is not fixed for life.
Right.
So, based on my current research interest, my scope keeps on changing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, for example, when we are closer to elections, you will see that my timeline, the people that I follow, are more of political experts and so on. But when it is closer to Olympics, then I follow more of people who tweet more about games and strategies and this and that. When there's a chess tournament going on, my timeline would be different.
Great.
Right.
So the same social media is there, and you have to do something to seek information from the same.
Correct.
So
And
that's something for people. People just say I'm not able to get it, and you would not get it unless you do something. So that's a great suggestion. Hetal.
information is all available. You have to reach out.
Because sometimes you wonder, why am I getting this post and why am I not getting the feed which you got it? Because possibly the way you have adjusted yourself.
Correct. Yes.
Right. So could you tell certain specifics about how to get this information now, as in when you are able to quote certain thing? It is either from the feed,
Huh.
when you are referring to Facebook or Insta. But how do you search at large in Google? Because Google is vast. Are there any pointers you could share?
See, it's about fine tuning what you want. So you will not get it right the first time. So I'll give you an example of AI. I mean, Google is something, but let's talk about AI. So everyone here has, probably everyone watching this has used AI, ChatGPT, Cloud-A. There are multiple LLMs, right? Now what you do is you kind of ask a question to AI.
Okay.
Draft me a letter, right? That's a very standard. Draft me an email. Considering these points. Now you get the output. I don't generally stop at that. So it is about what is it that I want. Did the AI, so if you look at AI as not as something magical, but something which is working on an algorithm, and I can fine tune that algorithm based on how I fine tune my input or the question to the algorithm. Right. So there are certain things where I have taken about a week to fine tune my prompts.
Okay. So for my viewers, could you tell what a prompt is?
So for example, there was this research that I was doing, for which I had to give a PDF to the AI and ask it to generate certain things out of that PDF.
Okay.
Right. Now my prompt is 4 pages long.
Okay.
I have about 100 PDFs which I have to kind of put in, but I spent about a week fine tuning the prompt, saying okay, this is this. So I would generate the output from a PDF. Then kind of I would look at it. I would say that okay, this is something that is not correct. So then instead of blaming the AI, saying not good output, I could say how can I improve the input that I'm giving so that the output is better.
Right. So what you want, it actually depends on you. So absolutely. I mean, I can just think of an analogy here. You go to a restaurant and you want something, and you just tell them, hey, give me this. And then you end up being not so happy. Instead, if you say, you know what, actually I like a little bit spicy.
Correct.
And with that tinge, and then you end up being a very pleasant experience. So it really depends on you, because the chef can probably do everything.
Yeah, you can tell the chef, okay, what do you cook best? Give it.
Yeah.
That does not mean it will match your taste buds, right? So that's a very good analogy. Yeah.
Thanks. So basically now action items for my viewers. So I get a lot of inputs here now from you that it all depends on me. The data is lying in social media. You have to ask the right questions and you have to decide the scope. And then you will have all those pleasant experiences of getting the data from the same social media.
Correct.
So for the novice users, are there any tips about how they could start using certain things and experience this?
Sure. So, specifically from the perspective of data or the information that we
So I'm talking about the same place where you and me search. You end up getting some wonderful information and you quote the next day based on our discussion. And I'm waiting for some results to keep. Just an example. So what exactly do you do? Could you tell me certain things that, hey, could you try these couple of things? And
so, right. So primarily for the viewers, I mean, fine tune things based on what you get as input or output, what you give as input, what you get as output. And then you suddenly kind of, you realize that there is this change that I can do to get a better output. So always do not be satisfied by what you're getting, and do not blame someone else or kind of the tool for it. Maybe, I mean, if you're using a very new version of the tool or something, then that could be a problem. But instead of saying that okay, the tool did not work, you kind of try and find out ways to use that tool in a better way. That's primarily
Great, great.
what I would.
So Hetal, thanks for that information. But I know you are a management consultant. So very often, what happens is probably the places where you are doing the assignments, they have their own problem statements, and you are probably not a part of that industry all the time.
Correct.
Do you rely on social media? Do you get information from social media so that you could help them strategize on their actions?
Sure. I mean, it's all kind of data driven, as we say. I mean, data rules the world, right? So one of the things that I do is so there are multiple things that happen, of course, right? So one of the very important things there is competitive analysis.
Right.
So you have to understand the landscape in which the company is operating. So when you are working with a company, you have to understand, okay, these are the problems that they are trying to solve. Now there are X other companies which are also trying to solve the same problem.
Right.
Now, when they are trying to solve the same problem, how is it that they have approached it? What is the solution that they have, right? And what is it that this company is doing? How is it that it is doing it differently? What is the USP? See, there are multiple. I mean, if you think of it, there are like too many aspects to it. Now, I use so recently. I mean, with the advent of AI, what I've done is I've started using AI for some of these things. So there you give a URL to AI, and it helps me increase my productivity by about 5 times, 10 times, right? So you can give a URL to the AI and ask it to summarize. But you can give multiple URLs and say, okay, give me a table based on kind of the offerings that these companies have, and how are they different and how are they similar. And AI would do it, because that's the beauty of I mean, so for someone who is a AI user, I mean, what I thought of as an impossibility even 6 months to 1 year ago is reality now.
Great.
So that makes me scared as well as excited about what is coming up in the next 2 years.
Okay, okay. So now as a consultant, how do you use the same space which is available for everybody, but your knowledge, your method makes you a different consultant and gives you the information.
So yeah, I mean, it's about what you're trying to get out of it.
Yeah,
How do you
yeah.
use it? Because finally, even AI is more of data analytics.
Right, right, right.
Right.
So information is available at large, and thank you so much for sharing all those inputs. But my point, and again, I want to tell my viewers today, is basically the same place where the data is available, the information is available. How do you go and access that and come up with some inputs for your solution? So if they have to start thinking about it, I think it all starts with the thought process that they have, how they approach the question, isn't it?
It's all about curiosity. It's all about the thirst to know more about something, without and understanding that not everything is kind of as we say in Hindi, patthar ki lakir, ki bas this is cast in stone.
Okay.
Right? So you have to look at things, have your curiosity propel you into so very very interesting parting thought about from a podcast that a friend shared yesterday about data collection and data analytics.
Okay.
So Tim Urban, an author that I follow, in a podcast yesterday said that do you know how productive are you? Right?
Interesting.
So are you collecting data about your own productivity? And then he goes on to say that there's a standard chess clock. Everyone has played chess. They know the clock, tick tock. I mean, one person finishes his turn, his or her turn, and they kind of press the clock. The other clock starts ticking. Right. So can you start with the chess clock set to in a 10-hour work day? You say that you are productive for 5 hours. So can you start with a chess clock with 5 hours set on everything? Whenever you take a break, you are scrolling Facebook, you kind of press this. When you start work, you press this, and in the end, by the end of the day, you know how much you have worked and how much you have kind of not worked.
Right.
And then it will give you once you analyze, you generate data. Once you analyze that data, you will be able to kind of do a guilt free, okay, let me focus on a marathon 3-hour work session, and I'll be done for the day.
Yeah. Great.
Right. So
Thanks, Hetal. So now, again, one more question. I think I'm just having so many questions, and it's really interesting to have this discussion with you. Can we learn this? So people often hear things. I'm getting excited about this. I'm getting so many pointers so that I can put into action.
Yeah.
But are there formal courses around this, or can such courses be created so that people get to do this hands-on and learn?
So it is. So have I learned this formally? No. But have whatever I've learned contributed to me being this way? Yes. So there's a difference.
Right.
So it's not that if you take a child and not teach that child anything, that is not going to help. But having learning about data sciences or learning about how to analyze data or something, that will also help in kind of you becoming a better interpreter of data in whatever form that it comes in.
Right. Thank you so much. Hetal, this was real pleasure, and you gave so many insights about how to look about this and social media at large, and that is certainly going to spark some action items in our mind.
Thank you so much for having me here. My pleasure.
Great. Thanks, Hetal. So friends, the clock is ticking, and you have to make a note of this, that the data is available in plenty, and what you need to do is really find out the ways as to what exactly we are looking at. It is not just the tools which we learn, those are absolutely essential, but your mindset to know which data to access, define the scope, and configure it in such a way that the best input will come out to you and the right solution you will be able to offer. So all the best. Happy learning.